We match. All right. Still getting ready. Trying to do all the things at once. You know, my office for this call is my bed, so. Ah. Cheat on Fridays. Hope not. Aha! Desk assembled. That's the process. This is the room where I have better lighting. I'm gonna wait one more minute. I'm gonna post in the group and just remind people that there's a meeting right now. Nancy, I'm glad you made it. I know you said you had a lot going on. Oh, she's talking to someone. Oh wait, Lara's here. I know Kim's out of town, so she might not be here. Well, Shannon told me she couldn't come. Yay, Carolyn's here. I was about to tag her. Hi. Hi. Not sure who else. Avery. I don't know if Jasmine said she wasn't sure she could come. April. All right. I just tagged some folks. Maybe some more people will join us. It's that time of the year. I've just been feeling it in like all the groups that I'm part of as a member. It's just that like engagement across the board is down in like year-long commitments. And, you know, we're in that final quarter, that home stretch. And I'm like, not in our group. Come back. I've been personally messaging people. I'm like, where are you? Come back. Which actually, before we start, that like leads me to wanting to share something. And for those of you who aren't here, I'm calling you out on the replay. Not calling you out, calling you in, calling you forward. It's a weird thing, you guys, to get perfectionistic about healing. And I feel sometimes like the people whose coping mechanisms are isolation. I think there are people in every group, but I know there are people in this group who like one of the reasons they joined is because they know that one of the reasons that they struggle is because they isolate and they don't ask for support and they don't tell people when they need help and they're struggling with things by themselves. And so then they join a place like this where I don't think we could ask for like a more squishy place to fall into when we're struggling than this group of people. Like we are the most open, loving, accepting, nothing is off limits, there are no taboos group you could possibly imagine. And there are still people in our group who are not showing up because they're going through a hard time. And when I talk to them about it, their response is like, ugh, I know I'm behind and I owe the group something. And I'm like, no, like there's no way to get, this is not a thing you can get behind on because it's not a class, right? There's no tests and you don't owe us anything, but you owe yourself maybe like the connection that you opted into having this opportunity to have a group of people that you can share with who have like, they're not connected to your life. You literally owe us nothing. So this is the place, if anywhere, that you can share when you're struggling or when you need help or when things are going tough for you. And so I just, I find it so interesting when I reach out to check in with people in the group who haven't been here for a while and they're like, oh, I know I'm behind and I owe you guys something. And I'm like, no, you owe us nothing, but we want to support each other. Like we want to be here for you. But also it's just funny. It's a thing to like get perfectionistic about healing. Like there's this idea that you need to show up to the healing space healed, or like you're only here to be a support for other people. And if right now you're feeling like you have a lot going on and you can't support other people, you shouldn't show up. Like that is not what this space is about. That's not what our group is about. And so I just want to put out there, if you're here right now or you're watching this on the replay later, that if you haven't been connecting because you feel like you have a lot on your plate, there's something for you to dig into there about why you're feeling like there's a way that you need to be in order to show up, right? Because this is the place where you can show up as imperfect as you are and be completely held and completely accepted. This is a coven, right? Like this is a group of 20 women. And in this group, there's gonna be somebody who's been through what you're going through who would love to support you if you would just come in and share that you're struggling. But if when you are struggling, you shut down, you isolate, and you don't let us in, and then you use that as another thing to beat yourself up about, you just take it as like, this is one more place that I'm behind. This is just one more thing I'm not keeping up with. Then it's that like Groucho Marx thing. Like, I think I'm going to join a club and hit me over the head with it. Like today at Agape, Michael Beckwith, who's the Reverend there, was talking about how there's no such thing as self-improvement, and that most people go down paths of self-improvement to add one more route of self-punishment to the list of things they're punishing themselves for. And it's like, oh yeah, now you've just created this whole new lane of things you can tell yourself you're sucking at. there's no such thing, you know. And he was like, all improvement is eliminating lies that you're telling yourself. And these lies become laws in our lives, right? Like all the self-improvement, all the spiritual work is not the adding of things, it is the subtracting of bullshit. And some of that bullshit is the idea that like you need to be a certain way to show up here, that you need to be a certain way to be accepted, that you need to be a certain way to be good enough, that you need to be anything in particular other than what you are. The other thing he said this morning that I felt was super powerful was like the whole idea of spiritual work is bogus. You are never going to be more spiritual than you are right now today, because you are a spiritual being who is embodied. The nature of you, the entire thing of who and what you are, is that you are a spiritual being. You cannot be more spiritual, you know, like through study. All you can do is drop all of the stories and all of the illusions that are separating you from the truth of who and what you are, which is a divine and unique emanation of creative energy, right? That's the truth of who we are and how we exist. And everything else is just us buying into Maya. It's just us buying into bullshit. It's just us buying into the idea that we need to do more before we will be lovable and before we will be worthy and before we can show up, and all of it is a fucking lie. So that being said, just tagged a bunch of people and they showed up. It's good to know that this works. I'm going to do this again now that I know that this works. Oh shit! It worked. Juliet. Call it. I'm doing this from now on at 5 o'clock. I'm just going to go in the group and tag everyone instead of hoping you show up. I'm going to like poke at you. Okay, good. So that was my thing that I wanted to share, is like, please, please, please don't hide from the group because you somehow think that your struggle is something you need to go through alone, when you're literally paying a monthly fee so that you have a group of people to talk to when you're struggling. That's part of why we joined this group, is so that we have support. So use the support. It's already here. All of the tools that you requested at the beginning of the year, they're all still here for you. All that they require is that you utilize them, which is in perfect keeping with this moon. So welcome. Hi, I'm happy that you're here. I wish Diana could have been here. I introduced her in the group. She couldn't come tonight because she's running an event called Gongs and Bongs, and it's a cannabis sound bath. This is why this bitch works for me. I was like, you come here. You'll love her. She's great. But yeah, you'll be seeing her around, and she's a tremendous addition. And she's also a healer and just somebody that's going to be in the comments and able to support. And like, as I'm getting busier, if there's days that like I can't be on the Facebook group, I always wanted there to be someone who was like an extension of me, who could be in all the Facebook groups communicating with people and supporting. So you'll get a chance to get to know her, and she's lovely. Yay. So Lauryn has the hot seat tonight, and I'm going to unmute her. Hi.
Hi. I feel a little unformed with my hot seat, but that feels kind of Pisces. So, yeah, I just did the ritual, and I don't remember the question so much about, I think, needing support, like breaking through and like going through this liminal phase. And it feels so watery. But since no one had claimed it, I was like, well, I guess I will again, even though I feel like I've been doing that a bunch. But I feel like I'm in a transition on a lot of levels, and some of the work that was I'm doing in the Lifeline boot camp, I'm I'm getting the message that I need to schedule some downtime, like not micro, but like macro, and have a lot of rest after a lot of things that I've already committed to, which would be sometime next year. And I feel a bit just confused about my life path and my priorities, because as I talked to you guys last time, I was having a lot of feelings about wanting to do something different that focused on the earth, and I'm still wanting that, but I'm much more kind of in my day-to-day mundane rhythm right now. And there are certain hoops that I could be jumping through, such as I got a strange degree because dance movement therapy isn't very recognized in a lot of states, including Tennessee, because there's like a couple of us. And a hoop that I could jump through to get more options in my field would be to obtain a license, which involves several different steps that I've been feeling majorly resistant to and just really like sick in my body when I think about it. And yet it makes the most logical sense to go down that route for a lot of reasons. And today I realized driving that some of that resistance is about, it's actually my mom's shit because my mom for a long time was low-key anti-therapy, even though she's a psychologist. And so I'm in a place of just kind of evaluating whether I need to, in a, what's the word? Like in a balanced way, set up a way for me to go through those hoops and create more options for myself, or listen to more about kind of what's going on with my body reaction to that, because I think it probably has to do with the fact that I've been pursuing goals and shit for my whole life, and I'm tired, and I got through a big one this year, so I just want a breather, and yet I want to have more options than my job, which is very connected in Tennessee to being licensed. So that's where I am on practical things, when I'm a little bit more like earth-based than trying to save the whole world right this second. Though that kicks in pretty easily. And yeah, I guess I've just wanted to sort through that with a group of people because it feels confusing.
Folks have questions? Mishka has a question.
Yeah, I'm asking us. Are you asking for permission? Because that's kind of what I'm getting.
Me.
Go for it. You need downtime.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm not fully sure what I'm asking, but I know that yeah. I'm not really sure. I think I'm asking maybe for if anybody has experience in, it doesn't have to be a similar field, but maybe making a transition that's balanced and yet continues to move forward, because I think that's for me what it feels like I'm stuck between, and being a like person who's into doing so. really know how to do that. I mean, I have ideas, but it's definitely a place I don't think I've been before. Like, I know how to go, do a bunch of that, and I know not sort of, but continue along a path that feels aligned is not something everywhere. Not like just really intense.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Movement is there. Like, lateral movement be okay? Would like a period of non-movement be okay? Like, is movement the only option that would be acceptable, or could it be other movement options?
Well, I hadn't thought about that. Probably my way that my brain works. I guess lateral, yeah, that could be an option. And non-movement, the only issue with non-movement is that at my workplace, even though I'm getting away with a lot regarding my degree for a while, the expectation is that you're pursuing a license. And I was able for a long time to build a field anyway, and what I'm doing is the big step in my field. But the expectation is that I would continue to be on that path. But which is silly in a way, because as soon as everybody gets licensed, they leave, because that frees them up to be able to do other things. Yeah, so doesn't have to be forward, I guess.
Nancy had a question.
So what I was wondering is, because you were saying that, like, in pre-license, having some issues doing that, like whether it's like resistance, and I'm wondering, like, is there a way for you to, can you do the licensing thing and then just go back to doing your own thing?
Yeah, I can.
So yeah, because it's like, maybe it's worth looking into if there's like a way, like, you take the, you use the licensing process as like how it's going to serve you.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and yeah, I've been in a similar boat, because I went like the holistic health education, and then even as a health coach, having a hard time people understanding what it is. And so it's like, okay, well, if I go through like the fitness channel, that's become a really good way of getting in there that I didn't expect. You know, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been like, yeah, I'm a personal trainer. But, and there's things about it where I'm like, there's like articles that are like bullshit and stuff like that, but I'm able to, it's like, I don't know, I was able to kind of take from it what I needed, and it's been a way to kind of get where I want to go, sort of, I guess. I don't know, I'm not there yet. But maybe something worth considering.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions? I have one. Oh, Julia has one.
Hi again, by the way. So it's I guess my question, because I understand that what I'm hearing is that there's a specific type of degree that they are looking for, like that piece of paper to show you went through it. Is that kind of what's happening? Okay. We'll talk more later if you want. I'm going through the exact same thing. Very, very similar, as I'm looking to go into a specific field and do specific things, and they want a very specific thing, and it's just hard to get in the door even with that, because my experience is so vastly different, but I want to go this direction. That's what I'm hearing you're encountering, is kind of that same stop. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Basically, because it's yeah, there's a like a bureaucratic hoop that I have to jump through that I could do. I mean, but there's a part of me that is just, yeah, it's just really like, I've done the part that is what my field recognizes, and so I have some like damn the man energy about it. You understand that?
So my question is, if you eliminate other people's expectations, and if you eliminate the mechanics of how, what do you actually want?
If I eliminate other people's expectations. I do want to be licensed for the for what I could do with it, like to accept insurance and some really practical pieces that make the investment I've made in my training a lot more secure. Yeah, when I think about being an LPC, like a licensed professional counselor, and what that looks like, I don't particularly want a lot of that. I don't necessarily want a lot of sitting in an office and listening only. Like I want to be able to use my degree, which I can. But I think that's part of, as I'm getting more clear about it, saying it, I think that's part of it is I want the freedom of that, but I don't want to be stuck in doing what that job is to a lot of people. Juliet's got something.
Just a quick follow-up. What's the timeline? If you had to go and put in the time just to get the piece of paper, what's that timeline look like? What kind of time investment? I know the energy investment is like, but what's the time investment?
I'm so resistant to this that I keep not finding out exactly what would happen but probably I'd have to take between 1 and 3 credits, and depending on how strict Tennessee wants to be with my hours, I could have to start over obtaining basically 2 years of hours, or which wouldn't be fully 2 years, because one person said they'd sign off on like the last year that I worked under her. So maybe like a year. But it could be a 2 to 3 year process probably. And because no one in this state is really doing this, I think I'm a little unclear about if other blocks are going to show up in this structure that would slow it down. Which is ironic because I just keep like delaying it, and that slows it down too. But
how does this interact with the thought that you've been having for a while of going into private practice?
It would be, this is the tricky thing, is it is possible to do it without a license, but it is unwise in a lot of ways to do it without a license. So technically, I can see people, but there are a lot of barriers. So for instance, I can't accept insurance. I have a lot of liability risk that I wouldn't have if I had that. And people would be less likely to refer for certain things. Like I've totally fallen in love with doing EMDR, and I am wrapping up an advanced well, it's just certification, but I'm wrapping up additional training in it. But if I'm just a BCDMT, which is what my level of certification in dance movement therapy is I doubt that people would refer to me for EMDR. I mean, not, that might be my own fear about it, but it's just, it's muddier and people don't know what my degree is. And so they wouldn't know that I would be someone to ethically be able to do that.
You plan on being a dance movement therapist for at least the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what I'm feeling perhaps is that the biggest conflict is between your deep desire for rest and the idea that you need to do this additional licensing.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you have to do the additional licensing immediately if you're planning on being in this profession for at least the next decade?
Why would I have to do it? What?
Immediately. Like, for instance,
Yeah.
you know how like sometimes between high school and college people purposefully take a gap year? What if
Yeah.
what if 2020 was a gap year? What if you had a year where you didn't take on any additional anything and even cut back on some of the things that you had and gave yourself the structure of like, this is a purposeful year of not adding anything and not pushing myself and not taking on any additional. And then at the end of that year, I can revisit the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't even know like how you would feel at the end of giving yourself that much time to not pack yourself full of extra stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
how
true.
does that feel different?
Yeah, it does. I think what comes up for me is my ambivalent relationship with my workplace. And yet it's not that I fully dislike it. It's if I were to do that, I think I would have to commit to taking really good care of myself while I'm there. And maybe I would be somewhere else, I don't know, but it would make the most sense probably to stay there while I'm doing that. Yeah, which there are pros to, because like a year ago, before I got the job that I'm in right now, I was so content in a way because I had finally figured out like what I had to do to take care of myself in my previous job at that place. And I never really landed to that in this current job. But the structure of the job allows me more space from the facility, which is what I was having problems with. Yeah. So I think that might be helpful. There's a part of me that goes like, that starts to panic and is like, no, because then I will have lost time if I want to do that, which I'm still currently losing time because I don't want to do it. So
what does losing time mean?
I think it's wrapped up. I mean, as you're asking that, I think it must be a comparison thing, like wrapped up in, well, by that point, someone else will be licensed, or, you know, like it has something to do with someone else that's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem necessarily like real for you as much as it's like a something that got added on.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's definitely, especially in a career that you're planning on being in for the long haul, not a race.
True. That is true.
And there's also a possibility that that person who might get licensed ahead of you took their gap year like 5 years ago, and you just haven't done it yet. Like,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the way that feels. Something keeps coming up for me that's like about the school year cycle, and I'm thinking two things. One, if I were to tell myself this is your gap year, the plan is not to have be working on this, I would probably be more likely to research and find out when I could take the classes that I would need to take, so that then I would know, like, if it made the most sense for it to be in a year from now for fall, like I would have that information. Whereas currently I just don't want to look at anything, and I'm fantasizing about all kinds of ways to just damn the man and get out.
yeah, I don't think, and this was the live I did last night in Unstuck, you guys. I don't think that resistance is a problem. Right? So I think that sometimes like these things come up, like resistance or procrastination, or like not being able to make yourself do this thing that you're trying to make yourself do. And then we decide that that's a problem that we should be beating ourselves up for, or that we should be solving, as opposed to the fact that any or all of those things should be a signal that something inside you is asking for parenting.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't want to do something, rather than beating yourself up for not wanting to do it, a really great idea would be to ask yourself why you don't want to do it. And then trust and honor that you probably have a really good fucking reason. Like nothing that you're doing is random or doesn't make sense. You always have a really good reason. Right? Yeah. So like the fact that you don't want to look at this thing, or that you're feeling resistance to it, is because you're kind of burnt out. And you know you're kind of burnt out. It makes perfect sense that you would be like, inside, there's part of you going, do not take on another thing. We can't do it. That's not a problem. That is your pet asking for a nap.
Yeah. That feels right on.
I just feel like the problem is, like, a lot of the time we're diagnosing things as a problem that are actually signs and signals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of something else, alerting us to a deeper thing that needs our attention, right? It's not like procrastination is not the problem. Procrastination is the symptom that there's something inside you that needs your attention.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true, because I think, like, when I've been doing the Life Aligned work, I keep being like, crap, but I'm feeling things, and that means I have to listen to them. And a lot of the things are inconvenient things where it's like, well, but I don't view them necessarily as a problem. So it has felt mushy, like, I don't know what to do if I'm not like in this goal-driven mentality. I don't know how to navigate that. So that's helpful. Yes. I need to listen to that live.
I took it down. I deleted it. I didn't share it because, and maybe I was hoping we might be able to talk a little bit, but it ended up becoming very much about me and Carolyn. Like we had a very specific discussion that actually got really personal, and I didn't feel comfortable sharing her comments in the group. So I decided to take the live down and redo it. But yeah, so Carolyn and I, like, she was at one point, I think, the only person who was there. And so we just got into like a direct conversation. And I was like, I don't know if everybody needs this. But I am going to go back and redo it. Juliet, did you have a question or a comment or something? Go ahead.
Earlier, you had said something when you were kind of talking through your thought process. You said when the idea of a gap year came up and then staying at your location and you were kind of processing how that felt, you said, I guess I'll have to, I don't remember the exact, but it was, I guess I'll have to work on self-care, like during that time, like figuring out what that's going to take. And then later you said something about, I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to work with not feeling goal oriented, right? What would happen if that goal and those steps towards those goals were about self-care? Right? So you're satisfying some of that goal driven, but you're facing it kind of inward. So it's, instead of these are the 12 steps I need to do to get this goal and this external thing, it's these are the 12 things that I want to do for my own self-care, promises to myself, commitments to myself, type thing.
That's cool. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which I'm just going to jump in and caveat, because I know you doesn't mean sign up for 12 like additional like outside of work classes.
True.
But it could be like 12 things of like, I am going to purposefully take downtime, or like I'm going to schedule massages every week, like those kind of goals. But like I do like your and I get this because I'm like this too to such a deep degree, because I do think some of it is just passion and curiosity and wanting to learn all the things. Like it is so hard for me because all the time I see people advertising courses where I'm like I cannot sign up for any more shit right now. Like I can't. I had to actually tell a couple of people like I can't. As much as I want to do this training that you're offering and it looks amazing, I wish I had known about it before I signed up for this other training, because I can't be in my integrity if I sign up for it. I won't do the work, and I know it. So I get it. Like I know that part of it comes from just the desire to learn all the things. But I do think you're also aware of like that there's something a little shadowy in your compulsion to be constantly filling every moment of your time with obligations.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think that's worth unpacking and figuring out how to float a little bit more.
Yeah. Scene.
I've been working with you for a long time now. I know that.
You get me.
It's all love. How do you feel?
I feel good. I think that went from very watery to feeling a lot more organized and clear. I don't feel the urgency to like make any giant decisions right now, which is really what I need. I need a minute, you know? So.
Isn't it funny also how the second you took the pressure off that you had to decide, it made you want to do the research?
Yeah. That's so funny.
It's funny, but it's also a really key insight to your own resistance. So like I would literally write it down and put it somewhere. Like the removal of pressure is a major key for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like once you had that permission from yourself, from us, like we have permission to not decide right now. You were like, oh, now I'm curious. I want to know more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe like the thing that you write down that you put somewhere that you can see it is like, I have permission to not decide anything right now. Or like, I have the permission to take as much time as I need always.
Yeah.
I feel like that, right? The removal of pressure seems like a major thing.
I like that.
Can
I say something about how this feels different? Because I think it'll help me be more clear later. Yeah. So what's funny is that, this is funny, my ritual the thing that I was letting go of was being tentative and waiting and seeing. But it feels different, even though at 3 in the morning it might not. But it does feel different because that feels very fear-based and like old childhood stuff, and this feels maybe more adult and I don't know. It feels different. I think I just had to say that because I was like, wait a minute, this is the thing I just let go of, but it's not. It feels different.
Yeah, maybe a texture in there is like being tentative and waiting and seeing is about making your decisions based upon external factors. Whereas the thing that we just came to is you giving yourself permission to take as much time as you need before you make any decisions.
That feels really real. Okay. Yeah.
Have you,
totally.
I'm going to put this in the group, but like, have you done your human design chart? Do you know your human design type?
No.
I've recently become fucking obsessed with human design. And I haven't been talking about it that much in the group because I don't know enough about it. Like, there's so much to learn. It's insane. Does anyone know their type? Just raise your hand if you know your human design type. Oh my, you know yours? Juliet, what are you?
I can't remember the exacts. I have it written down from when you and I did our coaching session.
I did yours. You're a generator. I remember.
Yes.
70% of people are generators. But what I was thinking, so in human design, it's like this crazy mix of astrology, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, chakras. Like, it's this weird blend, and it's the same kind of like calculator, like with astrology, you put in your birth date, place, and time, and it gives you this huge chart. There is literally so much in everyone's chart to know, but it feels like the biggest permission slip to be who you are. It's like the most articulating, interesting thing. So what they talk about in your human design chart is that your chakras, and they add one, they have an additional center that they call the G center, but everyone comes in with certain centers defined or undefined. And the way this shows up in your chart is that they're either colored in or they're clear, with the exception of reflectors, which is 1% of the population who comes into the world with all of their centers completely open. My friend Megan is a reflector. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the characteristics of having an undefined root chakra is constantly feeling pressure. And so I was wondering in your human design chart if you had an undefined root chakra. So there's a couple. So what they call it, if you have a chakra that's defined, an energy center that's defined, then that's a place where you're just like really secure in who you are, and it's more difficult for you to be like subject to programming from the outside in that area. If you have an undefined center, it's easier for you to be pulled into programming. So they call it the self and the not self. So in any area where you're defined, it's pretty easy for you to stay in yourself. In areas where you're undefined, you will get pulled frequently into your not self. So in the root, which is about security and safety, the not self is feeling a lot of pressure, a lot of external pressure and anxiety. The other thing that comes up in there is in your third eye chakra, the not self for that is needing to appear certain. And so sometimes when both of those are undefined, the way it plays out is you have all of this pressure around you and you need other people to think that you know. So you pretend to know when you don't know, or you put forth the image that you know in order to appease others. So I'd be really curious to hear, like, we'll have you pull up your chart and you can tell me what your open centers are. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so, like, once you do your chart, you'll be addicted because there's so much to know. Like, I'm very slowly working through mine. It's fascinating.
Wow.
Mine, like, I cried. It's all just about like needing to be in my body, searching for my worthiness in like both my body and external opinions, that like the whole like pathway of my life is coming into like acceptance of the self and not seeking my worth in other people's opinions, especially as it relates to the body. I was like, there's kind of here. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating stuff. Definitely check it out.
Interesting.
Do you feel complete on your question?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. Carolyn, can I invite you? Would you be willing to talk a little bit with the group about our discussion last night? And I would love to hear just like how you're feeling after it.
So, we talked a lot about, so I am currently in a job that I don't care that much for. And so we talked a lot about what are the things that are keeping me there. Should I be driven by money? Where is that coming from? Do I have a support system that would allow me to just take some time and spend, and this is the really radical part that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around. And it's a little bit like your gap year, where I just take some time to like do what I want to do, which seems really scary and weird and totally not what I've ever done before. But it also sounds exciting and interesting. And I mean, I always think that if I won the lottery or if I didn't have to work, I had unlimited means, that I would probably just be constantly taking classes and volunteering at animal shelters and just doing all kinds of different things and always learning something new. So yeah, but I think we talked a lot about limiting beliefs and things that I haven't identified yet, to kind of figure out how to get past my extreme desire for security and stability and knowing what's coming ahead.
You want to talk about like where that got to? Because it got a little meaty.
Well, we tried to talk about where was I getting these kind of negative voices and why was I feeling like I don't have the ability to take the time. And I mean, we did talk, it was weird because it just kind of popped into my mind that I was making it my ex-husband, like the voice, which doesn't, I mean, it seems really strange to me that that's what came out of me, because he was, kind of a supporting person, but in a weird way. Like he would give me really big pep talks, but then later cut me down. And so I feel like maybe those negative things probably are still running around up in here. And so now I'm gonna cry. But yeah, it was really interesting. I really had never come up with that, with his name tied to my negative thoughts before.
Yeah. And how did it feel when we talked about what it would mean to let that go, like to fully let it go?
It felt like really freeing. I feel like it would be something that would be really nice to let go. And just, kind of living more, in the moment rather than kind of rehashing all the old things all the time over and over in my head. I think that would feel so much lighter, and I feel like maybe I would have more energy, because a lot of times I feel really, weighted down and so exhausted all the time. And Lauryn, you were really talking about feeling so tired. So yeah, I think, letting some of that stuff go, those expectations or those, even if it's something you kind of put on yourself, to just kind of let that go and allow yourself to get the rest you need, whatever form that might take.
One of the things that I said to Carolyn last night, and I want to know how you're feeling about it, it was a big thing for me to say. But I was thinking about it for myself, and I was thinking about it this morning, and I want to share it with you guys. That everything that we're carrying, even if the thing that we're carrying is especially if the thing that we're carrying is trauma or abuse or something that happened to us. And it's something that we come up against over and over, right? Well, like, I can't succeed because, right? I can't take this risk because. And I think a lot of the time in our, like, in our culture, like, we have cultivated so much self-knowledge, but a lot of the time it stops at self-knowledge, right? Like, that can sometimes be the downfall of talk therapy, is like, I can tell the story of why I'm fucked up, and now I get to use that story as the reason why these conditions persist in my life. Something kind of deep and true is that in order to actually let go of the thing, like the day we completely forgive and we completely let go, we give up getting to use that thing as a reason that we're not doing stuff anymore. And that can be a little confronting. And for me, like, for a long time, it was my upbringing. It was like abuse that I had gone through as a kid. And it was like this story that I had about what levels of success were available to me because of what I had been through, like because of my parents. For me to reach a place where I really let that trauma narrative go, where I decided that in this story that I have about my life, at one point, I was a victim. That was how I cast myself in this story. But if I wanted to, like, make this the point at which I stopped playing the victim role in the story and I started playing something else, I had to stop using this thing that happened to me as the reason that I could not succeed. Right? And I don't want to say the word blame, right? Because it's not about blame. And I don't want to say the word excuse, because I wasn't making an excuse. It was just that in my head, that was the story I was telling myself. I was still in my head 6 years old. 8 years old. I was still the child who could not have these things because my circumstances wouldn't let me. Like, my emotional reality had not yet caught up with the actual reality of my life, which is that I'm an adult with self-determination. And so there's this tipping point sometimes when we're like, why is it that I consciously know I want XYZ for myself, but I keep coming up against all of these internal reasons why not? When you nail down the reason and you're like, there it is, that's the story. That's the person's voice I hear. This is the narrative I tell myself about why I can't. The day that you decide to let that go is also the day you can no longer use that as a reason for not doing shit. And that is something that you actually have to give up, like consciously give it up. And you have to, and that requires some bravery and some tenacity. And like, am I really willing to let go of this, like, very convenient reason that no one would argue with? And everyone would be like, oh yeah, like, you had such a traumatic situation. I totally get why you can't, blah, blah, blah. Like, we make this kind of like pad for ourselves. It's like a little get out of jail free kind of situation. And especially if it's like, right, like an abusive relationship or an abusive situation with a family member, like if you share that with someone, they're probably going to back the fuck off and be like, oh, you're right. That is really heavy. You can't. I get it. But the day you decide, like, yes, this happened, and for a long time it held me back, and as of right now, today, that circumstance no longer defines what's possible for me in the future, you remove getting to use that as a reason. You just kicked a crutch away, and now you have to find new balance without that crutch. And that's kind of a big concept, right? Like, that's a big thing to undertake, is that you're like radically redefining the meaning of this story in your future. I want to say that again. You are radically redefining the meaning of that story in your future. Because that's really what's happening. Like, the way that we're playing it right now is, here's this story and this is what it means about me now. This is what it means about what's possible, what I can do, what I can't do. This is what it means about my past and my future. So the decision to redefine what that story is going to mean from here forward requires something of you. And that is something to let go, right? Like that's something that like you are actually giving up. So how does that feel now that you've like sat on that for a day?
It feels good. it kind of feels like the mindset thing of like, I mean, even thinking about my current job in a different way, because one of the things I always tell myself is that no matter what I'm doing, would it feel like a job? I know Juliet's laughing. She's heard that like 1,000 times. Like, even if I liked what I was doing, would it, if I was doing it all the time, would it still be this horrible? Like, it's a job. So, I mean, what is so horrible about my job? I mean, I like the people, the environment is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, I just want to rethink kind of everything I've been thinking.
I also wonder in human design if you're a projector. Projectors not self-theme is exhaustion, and projectors actually can't really work more than 3 or 4 hours a day without wanting to die. It doesn't matter what they do, they just cannot work that much.
Maybe.
You might be a projector. But I'm telling you, like, when I say it's the biggest permission slip of life, like, you read it and you're like, that's why I'm like this. One of my best friends is a projector, and she was like, that's why I'm a stripper. I need a job where I can show up when I want and just do what I want and then leave.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to check that out.
Yeah, please do. I'm glad that it's giving you a little space to kind of consider things differently. And I'm also glad that it feels scary, but also really exciting to consider giving yourself some space to figure out what you really want.
Yep. Yeah, and the daily play thing that we've been doing in the Life Aligned thing has been really fun. And thank you, Lauryn, for doing a thread on that. Appreciate it.
Awesome. I just want to see all of us win. I just want to see all the people I fuck with winning. Just want to see us all happy every day and doing stuff that makes us feel like we're living our purpose on the planet. And anytime that we're not feeling that way, like, we're out of alignment. Like, that suffering through every day, as much as it is normal in this culture, is not really what we're fucking here to do. It's not what we're here to do. I just don't believe that that's what we're here to do. Does anyone have anything? I wanted to pull some cards for us. I posted a full moon reading on the full moon, but I wanted to do one that was just for us. And I am going to use that, the layout that Nancy posted, because I really liked it. That full moon spread was really cool. So in this full moon spread, I've been shuffling the whole time we've been talking. So we're here. What is there to look forward to during this moon phase? What do I need to release? Oh my God, these cards are on our noggin. How can I release it? What is lingering in my subconscious? What secrets will be revealed? Where should I focus my energy? What new opportunities will arise? And what lessons will I? Oh my God, you guys are gonna laugh. So what is there to look forward to during this moon phase? Inverted control. What do I need to release? Breakthrough. Fucking everything. How can I release it? Creativity. What is lingering in my subconscious? Traveling. What secrets will be revealed? Conditioning. Where should I focus my energy? Consciousness. What new opportunities will arrive? Change. A complete reshuffling. What lesson will I learn? Ripeness. Whew. All right. This is funny. We're going to dive in. I'm just cracking up. These cards are always so on us. All right. These are big. We just pulled like a lot of kings and nines and major arcana cards. All right. Okay, here we go. So Talking about control. Control. So this is, what is there to look forward to during this moon phase? There's a time and a place for control, but if we put it in charge of our lives, we end up totally rigid. This structure is mummified, and this person is mummified in the structure they've built up around themselves. Fists clenched, stare blank, lower part of the body is beneath a knife point, a cutting edge that divides and separates. Lower half of the body, your sacral and your root chakras, your creativity and your safety. Fists are clenched, stares almost blank and blind. His world is ordered and perfect, but not alive. He cannot allow any spontaneity or vulnerability to enter. The image of the King of Clouds reminds us to take a deep breath, loosen our necktie, and take it easy. If mistakes happen, it's okay. If things get a little out of hand, it's just what the doctor ordered. There is much more to life than being on top of things. Controlled people are always nervous because deep down, turmoil is hidden. If you are uncontrolled, flowing, and alive, then you are not nervous. There's no question of being nervous. Whatever happens, happens. You have no expectations. You are not performing. So why should you be nervous? To control that mind, one has to remain so cold and frozen that no life energy is allowed to move into your limbs or body. If energy is allowed to move, those repressions will surface. That's why people have learned to be cold, how to touch others yet not touch them, how to see people yet not see them. Yeah, so the opportunity of this moon phase is to let go of control, to recognize that there is more to life than just being on top of things. What do I need to release? We got the breakthrough card. The predominance of red in this card indicates at a glance that its subject is energy, power, and strength. The brilliant glow emanates from the solar plexus, the center of power on the figure, and the posture is one of exuberance and determination. All of us occasionally reach a point when enough is enough. At such times, it seems we must do something, anything, even if it later turns out to be a mistake, to throw off the burdens and restrictions that are limiting us. If we don't, they threaten to suffocate and cripple our very life energy itself. If you are now feeling that enough is enough, allow yourself to take the risk of shattering old patterns and limitations that have kept your energy from flowing. In doing this, you will be amazed at the vitality and empowerment that breakthrough can bring to your life. To transform breakdowns into breakthroughs is the function of a master. It is the greatest adventure in life to go through a breakdown consciously. It is the greatest risk because there's no guarantee that the breakdown will become a breakthrough. It does become, but these things cannot be guaranteed. Your chaos is very ancient. For many, many lives, you have been chaos. It is thick and dense. It is almost a universe in itself. So when you enter into it with your small capacity, of course it is dangerous. But without facing this danger, no one has ever become integrated. No one has ever become an individual, indivisible. The dawn is not far away, but before you can reach the dawn, the dark night must be passed through. And as the dawn comes closer, the night will become darker. Whee! So this is all about, you have all this control and it's not letting you live your life. And this is all about how the way through is to bust up all of the structures that are blocking energy flow. So doing something risky, doing something crazy, doing something you've never done before, doing the thing that sounds the most terrifying and yet the most freeing, that's the thing. Now, how do we release this? How do we do it? We get creative. And especially when we're looking at like, how do I potentially decrease my income? We get creative. We are women. We've been figuring this shit out for fucking centuries. We are good at this one. From the alchemy of fire and water below to the divine light entering from above, the figure in this card is literally possessed by creative force. The experience of creativity is an entry into the mysterious. Technique, expertise, and knowledge are just tools. The key is to abandon oneself to the energy that fuels the birth of all things. This energy has no form or structure, yet all the forms and structures come out of it. It makes no difference what particular form your creativity takes. It can be planting a garden, making a meal, painting, or singing. The important thing is to be open to what wants to be expressed through you. Remember that we don't possess our creations. They do not belong to us. True creativity arises from a union with the divine, with the mystical and unknowable. Then it is both a joy for the creator and a blessing to others. Creativity is the quality you bring to the activity that you're doing. It is an inner approach. Not everyone can be a painter, and there is no need. If everyone was a painter, the world would be ugly. It would be difficult to live. Not everyone can be a dancer, and there's no need. But everyone can be creative. Whatever you do, if you do it joyfully and lovingly, if your act of doing is not purely economical, then it is creative. If you have something growing out of it within you, if it gives you growth, it is creative, it is spiritual, it is divine. All the major religions of the world say that God is creator. I don't know whether God is creator or not, but I know one thing. The more creative you become, the more godly you become. So something I think is really important in this card showing up in the place of how do I release it, we get creative, is that it's about not trying to do what everyone else is doing. It's about not needing to replicate, not needing your life to look like other people's lives. And I think that that's really important when we're talking about busting out of structures that keep us stuck. So many of the structures that keep us stuck are comparison driven or are about thinking that we need our life to meet other people's expectations. And a lot of times it's parental expectations, and we are grown-ups and our parents will be fucking fine. They have their own lives, right? So it's like just, and like, I find people I talk to clients who are doing this and their parents aren't even alive anymore and they're still trying to please their mom. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the time we are torturing ourselves by internalized expectations of like, we have to make our lives look like other people's lives. So I think this is really saying if you want to break through, get creative in a way that means like, get financially creative, get creative about what your life looks like, and also understand that like there is no requirement that your life looks like somebody else's life or like the life that was ordained for you by other people's expectations. The thing that's lingering in our subconscious is traveling. This is interesting to come up here, and I'm curious about it being the lingering thing, but because this card is about understanding that you're on a path. So what I'm getting, like my hint that I'm getting about why this is coming up and the thing that's lingering in our subconscious is the idea that we need to be getting to a goal, as opposed to like the understanding that there literally is no goal, that we're all just on a journey, that the path is not ever linear. The tiny figure moving on this path is not concerned about the goal. He or she knows that the journey is the goal. The pilgrimage itself is the sacred place. Each step on the path is important in itself. When this card appears in a reading, it indicates a time of movement and change. It may be a physical movement from one place to the next, or an inner movement from one way of being to another. But whatever the case, this card promises that the going will be easy and will bring a sense of adventure and growth. There's no need to struggle or plan too much. The traveling card reminds us to accept and embrace the new, just as when we travel to another country with a different culture and environment than what we are accustomed to. This attitude of openness and acceptance invites new friends and experiences into our lives. Life is a continuity, always and always. There is no final destination it is going towards. Just the pilgrimage, just the journey in itself is life, not reaching to some point, no goal. Just dancing and being in pilgrimage, moving joyously without bothering about any destination. What would you do if you got to a destination? If you really reached the destination of life, then what? Then you would look back very embarrassed with nowhere to go, having reached the final destination. And in the journey, you've lost everything. You have to lose everything. So standing naked at the final destination, you will look around like an idiot. What was the point? You were hurrying so hard. You were worrying so hard. And this was the outcome. So yeah, I think this thing that's lingering in our subconscious is this feeling that like we should be getting somewhere, but we have to remember that like that's fake. We literally live in like this goal, like a progress obsessed society that puts all this pressure on us that we constantly have to be like doing some kind of linear forward movement. I was talking about this in something recently. I don't even know because I've been going live so much, but I was talking about how I think that our school system is part of where this starts. Like we spend the first like maybe up to 20 years of our lives slogging through shit we don't want to do, whose only purpose is the completion of this shit to get to the next shit. Like we are working really, really hard for 9th grade just to get to 10th grade. And then we work really, really hard in 10th grade just to get to 11th grade. And we go through this our whole life to get to college. And then we work really hard being a freshman to become a sophomore, right? And it always with this promise that like the whole goal of school is to get done with school. We work really hard for 20 years just to get done with the thing. And then we enter the workforce and like we've been sold this bill of goods our whole life that once we are done with school, we're going to have this career, this promised land. And then maybe like if we go into the corporate workforce, then we go into the thing of like, now I climb this ladder. Like the goal of everything I'm doing is just the next thing that I'm going to do. It's a weird way to live. And it's fucking fake. Like it's an externally imposed structure that in no way is about nature. It is in no way about how we operate as humans. It's just something that some dude made up when we implemented the Prussian school system that was designed to train factory workers and soldiers. Like we are all supposed to just stand up when bells ring and move from task to task and be obedient. That's what we're trained for. That is the purpose of our schooling system. So I don't know. It just was like this gets embedded so fucking deep because our whole early training of life is that we are working really, really hard to get to the next thing. And that the next thing is the promised land. So yeah, I feel like that is hanging out in there. That's that pressure. There must be linear forward movement. And it's funny because the card that came up next, what secrets will be revealed? Conditioning. You are working too hard to fit in. These cards, they never play. Ever, 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 never play. Okay, working too hard to fit in. This card recalls an old Zen story about a lion who was brought up by sheep and who thought he was a sheep until an older lion captured him and took him to a pond where he showed him his own reflection. Many of us are like this lion. The image we have of ourselves comes not from our own direct experience, but from the opinions of others. A personality is imposed from the outside, and it replaces the individuality that could have grown from within. We become just another sheep in the herd, unable to move freely and unconscious of our own true identity. It is time to take a look at your own reflection in the pond and make a move to break out of whatever you've been conditioned by others to believe about yourself. Dance, run, jog, speak gibberish, whatever is needed to wake up the sleeping lion within. Unless you drop your personality, you will not be able to find your individuality. Individuality is given by existence. Personality is imposed by society. Personality is a social convenience. This is really important. Personality is a social convenience. Who benefits from you staying the way you are? Who in your life needs you to behave a certain way because it is convenient for them? Society cannot tolerate individuality because individuality will not follow like a sheep. Individuality has the quality of a lion moving alone. Sheep are always in the crowd, hoping to be in the crowd and feel cozy. Being in the crowd, one feels protected and secure. If somebody attacks, there's every possibility in a crowd that you can save yourself. But alone, only lions move alone. But every one of you is born a lion. Society goes on conditioning you, programming your mind as a sheep. It gives you a personality, a cozy personality, nice, convenient, obedient. Society wants slaves, not people who are already absolutely dedicated to freedom. Society wants slaves because all vested interests want obedience. Zam. We're being called to the mattresses here with this one. right? What secrets will be revealed is that one, is conditioning. That's really deep, right? This idea that the secret that's being revealed maybe to yourself might be like, I have been placating. I've adopted a personality that is socially acceptable, that is comfortable for the people around me. It's what my friends expect. It's what my family expects. It's not what I want. And if I were to really be who and what I wanted to be, some people would be confused or nonplussed. I love the word nonplussed. Where should I focus my energy? Consciousness. Tuning in, letting go. Most of the cards of this suit of the mind are either cartoon-like or troubled, because the influence of our mind in our lives is generally either ridiculous or oppressive. But this card of consciousness shows a vast Buddha figure. He is so expansive, he has gone even beyond the stars, and above his head is pure emptiness. He represents the consciousness that is available to all who become a master of the mind and can use it as the servant it's meant to be. When you choose this card, it means that there's a crystal clarity available right now, detached, rooted in the deep stillness that lies at the core of your being. There's no desire to understand from the perspective of the mind. The understanding you have here is existential, whole, in harmony with the pulse of life itself. Accept of this great gift and share it. We come from the unknown and we go on moving into the unknown. We will come again. We have been here thousands of times and we will be here thousands of times. Our essential being is immortal, but our body, our embodiment, is mortal. Our frame in which we are, our houses, the body, the mind, they are made of material things. They will get tired, they will grow old, they will die. But your consciousness, your no mind, is something beyond body and mind, something beyond everything. The no mind is eternal. It comes into expression and goes again into the unknown. This movement from the unknown to the known and known to unknown continues for eternity, unless you become enlightened. Then that is your last life. This flower will not come back again. This flower that has become aware of itself need not come back to life because he has nothing but a school in which to learn. He has learned the lesson. He is now beyond delusion. He will move from the known for the first time, not into the unknown, but into the unknowable. Where should I focus my energy? On tuning into your true nature, on dropping, trying to figure it out with your mind, on letting go of the idea that you can know with your mind, because that's actually an illusion. And even when you have a really developed plan, it might not go that way. And we actually have no fucking control, and that's fake anyway. It's always nice to remember. Our plan makes us feel safe, but being willing to not have a plan is kind of juicy too. So what new opportunities will arise when we do this? Change. It has often been said that the only unchanging thing in the world is change itself. Life is continuously changing, evolving, dying, and being reborn. All opposites play a part in this vast circular pattern. If you cling to the edge of the wheel, you'll get dizzy. Move toward the center of the cyclone and relax, knowing that this too will pass. The other interesting thing about this is that in the center of the wheel, there's a yin and yang symbol, a balance of masculine and feminine energy. So I think also what's coming in here about like being, moving to the middle, like not being on the edge of the wheel trying to chase and figure out the change, but allowing yourself to like be at the centered place, knowing that even while change feels like chaos, it's transitory. But that also at the center of change is the balancing of your masculine and feminine, is the balance of giving and receiving, and not trying to be in go mode all the time, not trying to manage the change, but to also like be in flow with change. And the final outcome, what lesson will I learn? One of my favorite cards, the Nine of Rainbows, ripeness. When fruit is ripe, it drops from the tree by itself. One moment it hangs by a thread from the branches of the tree, bursting with juice. The next moment it falls, not because it has been forced to fall or made the effort to jump, but because the tree has recognized its ripeness and simply let go. When this card appears in a reading, it indicates that you are ready to share your inner riches, your juice. All you need to do is relax right where you are and be willing for it to happen. This sharing of yourself, this expression of your creativity can come in many ways, in your work, your relationships, your everyday life. No special preparation or effort on your part is required. It is simply the right time. So, here's what I'm feeling. When we decide that we're willing to like ease up on the control a little bit and do something radical to bust through the old structures that feel like shit in our lives, even if it doesn't make sense and it feels crazy, and we're willing to get super creative in order to do that, to let go of the idea that we have to get to a destination by a certain point and really get real about where this conditioning is coming from that tells that is the root of this pressure-based system, and that we don't have to actually subscribe to it, that our unique code is not aligned with the sheep suit that we're trying to wear, and we can take the sheep suit off. And we decide to get really still with ourselves and listen to ourselves and honor our actual true inner voice and be comfortable with the unknown and surrender into there being a fucking shakeup. Then we get this. We don't have to figure out what's going to happen. When we actually just like let ourselves flow through the period of change, at the other end of it, we will feel ready to just share. We will feel ready for what comes next. It will just feel ripe without us trying to micromanage it. It will flow naturally out of letting it ripen, right? Out of letting it ripen, which really just comes with like time and surrender. You don't micromanage the tree. That feels like it just kind of read us to filth a little bit. Yikes. All right, Mom, we hear you. Thanks. Which is also like exactly right on for this full moon in Pisces. I have to go watch the Wonder Girl video. She just put it up, but the tagline is like letting go of decades of systems, decades of structure. It's pretty big. How did that feel? Did anyone like feel that that reading was really resonant for them? See some smiles, see some laughing. Mishka, go ahead.
Yeah, that micromanaging a tree, it's just like, boom.
Yeah. I saw a meme recently. I was going to post it to the group. I still will, but it was a mantra that was, I released the need to micromanage the universe. Yeah. We can trust. I saw another one. I am going to post it in the group. I won't even tell you what it says. I'll just post it and you'll know what I'm talking about. The micromanaging the tree, for those of you who are in life aligned, is really where we get into faith. Like the genuine faith that we live in a universe that's nature is unfoldment toward abundance, right? Like that's what inside every seed is the entire blueprint for the tree. It doesn't require micromanagement. It knows it's going to be a tree. And as long as it's like given the fucking minimal of good conditions, it will become a tree. But it is designed to be the biggest, healthiest, leafiest tree it can possibly be. That's what nature wants for it, right? Every mountain is designed to be the biggest, strongest mountain it can be. Every stream is designed to be the flowiest, healthiest stream that it can possibly be. And the same is true for us. If we are part of nature, which like society likes to make us forget that we're part of nature, but we are. We as fancy monkeys in pants who drive cars are part of nature, which means that our nature also is the unfoldment of abundance, that we are meant to be the fullest expression of what we are here to be, this unique emanation of creation, right? That's what we're here to be. So if we genuinely believe that the essential structure of the universe is the unfoldment of everything toward its highest potential of health and vitality, then that is also true for us, and we don't have to micromanage it. We don't have to control every single little aspect of it. We can have a little bit of faith that like things in general kind of go all right, whether we micromanage them or not. It's really nice to let the universe like play its part, do its thing. I talked in one of the lives about law of attraction being like baking a cake and being like, you know, you assembled all the ingredients in the cake and you put it in the oven, but if you're micromanaging the universe, you keep going and opening the oven door, so the cake's not baking because you keep interrupting the oven. So then you decide that the oven must not be working and you take the batter and you dump it out, but you still want cake, so you just start again over and over, right? Like at a certain point you got to trust that the oven is going to do the oven thing. All the seeds are planted. It's all happening. We can let things flow a little bit. The sun will still rise even if we don't set our alarm clock tomorrow. Oh, fancy monkeys who wear pants and drive cars. We make things so complicated.
I really need to make that into a sampler or something.
Right. What, Carolyn, what was that Jen Sincero mantra? Like, I'm just a little fluffy bunny working on my crap or something? What is it? Oh, no, you're still muted. Try now.
Okay, I'm just a little bunny working on my issues.
Right? Like, that's a nice thing to say to ourselves, like, every day when things feel heavy. It's like, I'm just a little bunny working on my issues. I'm just a funny monkey who drives a car and wears pants.
Yep.
I also want to offer this here. I've been offering it everywhere. It's my new favorite thing, but I have taken to no longer saying I'm working on anything ever as it comes to myself. I am choosing instead to say that I am loving into, because things that we have to work on just get added to the endless to-do list of shit that we have to get around to, that we can then beat ourselves up for not getting around to sooner, right? Like we're like, oh, I have to work on that too. Oh, I have to work on this too. But if it's an area that I need to love on, that changes the conversation a little bit. Like, oh, like procrastinating is an area that is asking for you to love into it rather than to conquer it. And the way that we love into things, right, is with compassion, with curiosity, with understanding, with openness, with a little grace. So if we cease to make a list of a billion things that we need to work on and instead we just love on stuff, might feel better. I like it. It's a nice one. I love you guys. It's early for this, and I'm going to let us go in just a second, but I just want to kind of give you a heads up that I'm not sure. Maybe I'll make it a Google form or something, but I'm starting to formulate the structure of the group for next year. And I would just love to start getting feedback from y'all as we start to like look through what about the structure from this year was good. What do we want to keep? What kind of, I'll propose to you what changes I'm thinking about. And I'd love to hear what you're thinking about or how you feel about the changes that I want to do for next year. What your experience has been. Like, I'm just going to start gathering all of that stuff because I'm starting to formulate the container for 2020. I definitely want to do this again. I think it's super cool. But like with everything I do, I had no plan when we started. I was just like the loosest of structures, see how it goes. And now that we've done it for a year, I have some ideas about ways that we could do it even better. So I will be asking you for your feedback and opinions on that. I love y'all so much. Thank you for coming Also, now that I know, it took me 9 months to figure out that posting in the group at 5 o'clock and tagging everyone is a good idea. So I guess I'll do that more. I love you. Bye.
You guys, that post must have woken me up from a nap because I accidentally turned off my alarm. So
I'm glad. Bye.
Bye.